Hey guys, welcome back to another Crave Shock video. Today I am here with Justin once again, and we have a special guest, Sean, aka Lifdrasyl. Sean, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
So Sean recently did well in a big event, and we thought we would get him on and learn a little bit more about him and his background, and also how he went in Chicago and what his matchups were. So,
Yeah.
Justin, take it away.
So yeah. I'll start. So Sean. uh, yeah, obviously you won Ascent Chicago recently, so congratulations on that. It's a
Thank
massive
you.
achievement. Yeah. I mean, only one person wins that whole Ascent. So
True.
yep. But yeah, for anyone who doesn't know about you or your background, would you mind just telling us a bit more about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Sean. I'm from Northern California. I've been playing GA since roughly around the time that the game released. So no like Kickstarter or like presets, I guess, for me. And I guess this year I've been making it my goal to more or less travel to every single ascent in the year. And I'm having a good time so far.
Definitely a big year
Yeah.
to pick because they picked up like what? There's an extra three ascents this year, so it's a lot more ascents than the year
Yeah.
before, right? Damn.
I mean, the year before doesn't really count, right? Because they had one ascent the entire calendar year, right? That was Ascent Houston. That was like later in the year,
And this
or
time,
like a
how
few
many
months
how
after
many are
release.
this year? There's how many are in this year?
There's
Um,
4 or 5.
It's more than that, I think, right?
there have been four so far, and I think there's going to be at least four more.
Yeah, it's a
So
lot of
like the ones
ascents.
Yeah.
that there have already been, it's like Ontario, and then Ascent Worlds, the 3v3 tournament, Taipei, and then now Chicago, and then we have Singapore coming up, Toronto after that, and then New Zealand, and then the rumor is like someplace in Europe, I think, or is it Europe? No, Europe's next year. I think it's another North American one
So
in
you're
December.
doing a world tour, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, I am. I will see y'all in Singapore.
Yeah. Are you gonna be going to New Zealand as well?
Yep, bought my
Yep.
ticket
Nice.
last
Yeah.
night.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. See you there.
I was malding because I couldn't find the Eventbrite link.
Yeah, I got a message from
Ah.
Sean. He's like, I miss VIP. I'm not coming. And he's like, okay, I found VIP.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not
that's
worth
funny.
it otherwise. Yep.
Yeah, I gotta get
So
the Fractal Brain playset, you know?
True. Very
yeah,
true.
yeah. I think we haven't had any leaks on the artwork for that yet, have we? So
Nah,
no.
No.
patience
Yeah.
is the virtue,
Should,
100%.
maybe. Yeah. Um.
There's gonna be a Nico on it,
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be very
Yeah.
cool.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Nigga players like are gonna love that so much.
Hmm.
So yeah, Sean. Outside of GA, do you have any other hobbies or things that you do in your spare time?
Oh God. Everyone knows I am a degenerate addict to ARPGs and gacha games.
Oh,
Oh boy.
aren't we all? Aren't we all at
Yeah.
this point?
Yeah. So at this
This,
point, you have two hobbies that are just straight gambling: gacha games and GA.
oh God,
Yeah.
yeah. That's pretty close. I do also enjoy actual gambling, so I feel like this is just gonna be me outing myself as like a complete absolute degen, and then I'm just gonna tell them the story about the time we gambled until 6 a.m. at
Oh
Vegas.
man,
Oh god.
that's the Patreon story if we had a Patreon. That's the deep dark story, the 6 a.m. gambling session.
Yeah.
No, it's quite funny though
Big-
because before we started recording today, I was showing Justin some like nice banner artwork. I'm like, hey, look at this new banner in the Discord chat. And he's like, which gacha game? I'm like, no, it's literally a Grand Archive banner. He's like, oh, I definitely played too many gachas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Is
exactly
it
what
is it the
happened.
one in here?
Yeah, it's very pretty.
The Astromech?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Bit
I can
sussy, but
understand
you
why.
like it. Yeah.
No, because I didn't see the picture. When Jason just told me look at this banner, I
Yeah.
was like, "Is that a Genshin
Yeah.
banner?" And then I looked at the picture. I'm like, "Oh god, like I need
Yeah.
help." Yeah.
Everything's a Genshin banner.
Look,
Yeah.
funnily enough, so a story, I will add the story in here. So there was a story, me and Sean were at Worlds together, obviously. And it was held in a casino. And we are both probably degenerate gamblers of some sense, so to speak. And we made up a game for ourselves. We were playing 21. And whenever we would hit like 21, or whether we'd ever hit like this special like rule set in it, we'd double our bet. And
Oh my god.
we got so addicted to playing that whole rule set though. We like were there till 6 a.m. We didn't even run out of money. We just like, okay, at this point we have to go to bed because we've literally got to play like the next day or whatever it was. But yeah, we were just two random guys sitting there like hyped as over our little rule set we made on
Yeah.
21. And the dealers just had no idea what was going on. It was great. It was great. I
Yeah.
enjoyed that. It was
Wait,
good.
Was this the night right before day 1 or day 2 of
I
Worlds?
think it was the day before. It was the day before the day, I think.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it was. Yeah, it was the. Yeah, it was. I think.
Like
Well,
the
I
Thursday or
can't even say
something.
Wednesday evening. I have to say like Thursday morning.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Thursday was media day, right? Yeah,
Yeah, it
I
was
remember
media
that
day,
because
that's right.
Oh, okay.
That was good
Yeah.
yeah,
fun.
I overslept and I also like misread my media time. So I thought I was late, but it turns out I was 45 minutes early.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that's
misreading it was a blessing for
at
you,
least you
because
weren't
otherwise you
late,
actually would
yeah.
have been late.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, honestly, that's crazy, because I thought for a moment that you guys didn't sleep, rocked up, and proceeded to play Worlds, and then I mean,
I
sure,
mean, the way I
you made
played
second,
the
so
way I played Worlds,
yeah.
I should have used that excuse, to be honest, so but I won't.
Yeah.
Vegas was fun. I'm down to do it again.
Yeah. I mean, actually, yeah. If you're in Vegas, you have to gamble. Like, there's no excuse not to.
Yeah, it was good fun.
I'm going this
I
weekend.
learned. Oh,
Oh boy.
That's
Yeah.
exciting. That's very exciting. Make sure you
Yeah.
play some craps for me, because there is definitely no craps here in Australia. So I do miss playing that in Vegas, which is kind of cool.
Is it banned?
There's one table at the casino, and it doesn't get see play, like never gets played. So it's
Yeah.
sad.
It's just
It's
not
weird
popular.
because in California it's actually banned.
Banned.
Oh.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to play like I think dice rolling games.
Oh.
So they have some like California variant where they have like cards of like equal proportion to like the dice faces.
Mm.
Like you have one like 6 card deck that's just 1 through 6, and then another 6 card deck that's
Oh,
one through
what?
six,
That's
and you
cool.
draw cards to determine your roll.
Pretend
And it's
dice.
like all sorts of useless because it's just not as exciting as
Yeah,
rolling dice.
that's not
Yeah.
as fun.
Yeah. Doesn't sound too good. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah. Coming back to the topic of GA, just because I assume not all of the viewers
We're gonna
are
fall off
avid
the topic,
gamblers
and
like
you
you
have to
guys.
bring us back,
Yeah.
Justin. That's what
Yeah.
happens.
I'm gonna have to bring it back, just because I don't think everyone viewer watching is an avid gambler. But if you guys ever meet Sean and you like gambling,
Take
I
a
don't know.
gambling.
You
Yeah.
can ask him to come out with you. Maybe he will. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
oh my
up to him
god,
to answer.
how dare this guy talk about GA in our gambling podcast?
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
yeah. But yeah, bring it back a bit. Is this your first TCG, Sean?
uh, so unsurprisingly, I feel like no.
No.
I think the one that I played the longest was probably Yu-Gi-Oh before this, but I've like dabbled in other card games. Like I played most of the Bushiroad ones, so like Vanguard, like White Schwartz, like I played Force of Will for a time, and I think before GA released, I was thinking about like starting Shadowverse, because they didn't release at the same time, but I think Shadowverse was like later in the calendar year. But then one of my friends showed me GA, and I was like, well, first he showed me the dungeon guide like promo packs, and I was like, how does this game work? And he's like, this is a mix between Magic the Gathering and Vanguard. And I'm like, okay, so this card is broken. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
well, luckily I
Yeah.
have some
It's funny.
promos.
So Justin also comes from Yu-Gi-Oh, so we should have at some point
Yep.
like an Yu-Gi-Oh exhibition match down the track sometime.
Nah, man.
Alright, we'll play
I'm gonna.
Edison.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, okay, Edison I can play. Yeah, because I play
Fair,
I play
we'll play
nothing but a
Edison.
road deck. Yeah. Do you know Ritual Beast?
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
Ritual
yeah,
Beast.
yeah. I played Ritual Beast, but like years after it was good. So it became a rogue deck, and then it became unplayable, and then I was still playing it.
Don't
Yeah,
know
I
what
just
they're
got
talking about,
stomped every single
guys.
time.
I have no
Yeah.
idea what they're talking about.
You're
It's a very combo deck, very combo based deck, where the meme is your turn took 5 minutes, and then your opponent finished their turn in like less than a minute,
Oh, so
and then
it's
you
right.
did it all over
Oh,
again.
it's right. It's
Yeah, it's
right.
Arcane
Okay.
Rai. Yeah,
Got you.
it's
Got you.
Arcane Rai.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of Arcane Rai, I know someone else in this call loves Arcane Rai. Yeah.
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 uh,
Yeah. Um. Did you play Yu-Gi-Oh competitively, Sean?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like I was in like high school at the time, so my
Yep.
opportunities to like travel were quite limited. So, I mean, I could like play the regionals and stuff. And then I was like, "Can I go to nationals?" And my parents were like, "Absolutely not." And I was like, "Okay, well,
Yep.
that's the end of the dream, I guess."
Yeah.
Um, and then I was like basically out of the scene in college. It's actually funny. Like recently I ran into somebody at my locals who went to the same college as me, and he was like, "Yeah, we actually had like a Yu-Gi-Oh club like at the university. We were like downstairs in the basement of the student center where like all the food and
Yeah.
stuff was."
of
And I
course.
was just like, "Why didn't anyone tell me?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
mean,
you
I
could have
quit for
been.
all of college. Yeah.
Yeah. You could have been a Yu-Gi-Oh! World Champion at this point if you kept
Oh
going.
hell no! Those people are they're built different. They
Yeah.
grind so hard.
Yeah, sure. Yu-Gi-Oh! Players are a different breed in multiple ways. Yeah, and I'm not going to go into that because some of the events are a bit different to Grand Archive. I can't say I enjoy them as much, but yeah.
Did you sorry, just interject one quick second. In regards to when you saw the dungeon promo guides and you like got into the game, was it easy for you to pick it up from your Yu-Gi-Oh background, or did it take some time to kind of actually adapt and learn the game?
Um, yeah, I mean, I know like a lot of people always say like, okay, Grand Archive is, stylistically or like in terms of like how the game rules work, it's like basically Magic the Gathering, right? Like the stack system and all that. Um, I think it wasn't like too bad because like to be honest, the game like borrows elements from like a bunch of card games. And just like having a system where like your card costs like X amount is definitely not specific to like Magic the Gathering, right? Like if we dumb it down, like it's basically Hearthstone, right? Like your
Mhm.
Yeah.
card costs 2 mana. And it's just like, how do you acquire that mana? How do you pay for it?
Yep.
So I think like in that aspect, like it's not necessarily that like a certain background provides more advantage than others, except for maybe Magic.
Yep.
Yeah, I did notice there's a lot of like similarities to other card games, bit from each card game. For example, like even from Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if like you said mentioned Stack and Magic. I'm not familiar with Magic, but Chain Links and Yu-Gi-Oh! Do kind of translate over to Grand Archive, and that's why I was able to pick it up. Felt alright, but it's a bit different as well because in Grand Archive you can put things in the middle of the stack as it's resolving, whereas Yu-Gi-Oh! Once the chain link starts resolving, it's just
Yeah,
like
you
that's
just
it.
resolve
Yeah,
everything, right? All the way down.
yeah, yeah, all the way down. You have to memorize the whole chain, and then as it's going down, you can't do anything about it. So that's one of the things I love about Grand Archive is like they create more options. I think more things you can do. You can put things in as the chain's resolving.
Yeah, that's cool. I
Yep.
definitely like,
Yeah.
from my perspective, like I played Hearthstone as well, and Hearthstone is a good example in regards to like the mana costs of cards. But I played a lot of Legends of Runeterra as well before Grand Archive came out, and the Legends of Runeterra stack is also the same as Grand Archive, where you play something, it goes on the stack, they get a response, they put something on the stack, you get a response. So it was able to pick it up from that as well, from Legends of Runeterra also.
Yep. So yeah, got a bit of a different type of question, but John, if you had to be any character in GA for 1 month and you had to literally live their life, and it doesn't have to be a human, it could be any character, what do you think would be the best character to be, and what do you think would be the worst character to be?
I think the best
Does
character
that be
to
the
be.
champion or any character in the game, like any card?
Yeah, any card. Like even if you want it to
Oh,
be, I don't know, woodland squirrels, like anything in the
Yeah,
game.
I feel like being giant tortoise would be kind of cool. No, you're just a
Yeah,
giant
true.
turtle.
we're pretty
Yeah,
Like
chill.
you just
just swim
vibe.
around. Yeah, you just chill and you swim around. Yeah,
Like
that'd actually be awesome.
that one seems pretty sweet. I mean, are there any characters in GA that are just like lore wise just rich? Can I just be Bill Gates
Rich.
for a month?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be awesome. I
I
don't
think
know
so.
actually.
Uh
I think
yeah. I mean, like,
Arthur's rich.
oh, Arthur's immortal. Yo.
Yo,
True.
never die for a month.
Hey,
True.
I could be
Yeah,
immortal for a month.
yeah. We can do
That's
like you're
pretty good.
What about worst character?
Dude, worst it has to be like Barry Grief, no?
oh, true, Claude.
Like,
Yeah,
the guy
you
is
just
just suffering. Like,
He's just
I love how
miserable.
you
I don't
He's just
know. I don't want to be
miserable.
that for a month.
Yeah, that's true. I just
He's
love how
When you
you
said the
named
worst
it.
one, I was just like, my face is just like, yeah, dude. There's a guy kneeling at a tombstone.
literally a
Like,
month of
not a
grief.
good
It's just a
time.
month of
Yeah.
grief. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love how you named the card. You didn't even name the character.
Nah,
Just,
buried grief.
yeah, I just wouldn't want to be buried. Very creepy.
I was like, whatever that card is describing, like, I'm
Yeah,
good.
yeah, because I think lore-wise, that's Claude, and he's grieving over about it's something like both his daughter and his wife died. I think Rose is either his wife or his daughter, and the other one is Dahlia. It's one of the two, and they died.
Okay,
So
yeah, okay, double
yeah,
down. Yeah, I'm not down.
yeah,
I don't want to be that. Like,
yeah, that would be depressing.
what would be yours, Justin?
I think this one's less of a lore answer, but for the worst one, I would say Library Witch, because every time
She gets
Library Witch
burned
comes in, she
forever.
gets thrown. Yeah, she gets cremation ritualed. She literally just gets burned for fun.
See, I'd want to be. I'd be the guy off Extortion Scheme, tied up with Tristan,
Oh my
and then
god.
and then
Jesus.
the worst one would be. What would the worst one be?
Wait, that was your best one?
Yeah, that's my best one. That's great.
You are down
And
bad, brother. You need help.
what would the worst one be? The worst one would
He's
probably
a different
be.
breed.
The worst one
Yeah,
would
he
be.
wants to be tied up by
Worst one would
Tristan.
be Dewdrop Hairs because it never sees play and no one ever wants it. Very sad.
Bro, what about
I
Trusty
mean-
Steed?
Now Trusty Steed's huge. It's getting big. Everyone wants it now. Like, watch out.
Bro, Trusty Steed, you got to get flamed by a certain individual all the time.
Yeah.
A certain person that
Certain
we're
person
too
that
familiar
loves
with.
Trusty Steeds. Yeah, it's great.
Yep. Yeah.
That was certainly a more interesting vibe question.
Yeah. Good.
I've been trying to think of something random like that, but honestly, I think it's a good one just because
I
it
think
makes
it's
you
good
think
too.
about random cards in the game that sometimes, there are a lot of cards in the game that just no one remembers. But I'm glad you remembered Buried Grave. That was funny. Yeah. You don't have to remember Claude, but just remember Buried Grave. But yeah, so we've got a lot of leaks recently that have come out with A and B, or like even some of the non-A and B ones like SP2. What's the thing that you're most excited for that's coming up?
In A and B?
Or even it can be like from SP2 because technically that's not A and B. Just anything that's coming up.
Do not say horses, bro. You better not.
Wait, what do you mean? Horses sound so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Full disclosure for like leaks and stuff. I typically look at them like once and then just like don't think about them at all. I'm not one of the people that like when a full set is spoiled, I'll actually like actively go through and like look at all the cards and like start, like developing decks and like new ideas
Like me.
before I even get the product.
Like me.
Yeah, like when I open my first case always goes like super slow because every single card I see is like new. And then I'll typically like read them then. Obviously, like if people like post them in the spoiler chat, I'll like take a look and then hey, this card's like pretty good, or like I think this card's broken, and okay, this card sucks. It's just like filler content. I bet you anything it's a common, and then just leave it at that. So in terms of like A and B spoilers, I mean, I saw the stuff from like Chicago because I was there. Like I know we're getting horse stuff. But yeah, beyond that, I don't know too much. I would say though, like regardless of what's spoiled, I feel like the thing that probably interests me the most is we are getting like one of the two remaining like advanced elements, right, that haven't been released yet with Jin.
Yep.
So like regardless of everything else, that's probably going to be like what I'm most interested in, because it's just, I mean, there's just the most space for it, right? Like a whole new advanced element and like class type.
Yeah, definitely very fun to see with the new Exia. What do you think the mechanic will be? Or like, what do you
have
use Exia?
no
Yeah.
Yep. No idea. It could be anything.
It could be anything, yeah. It'd be a bit of fun actually.
Something to do with a pole arms.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Something to do with horses.
Some people
summon a horse. Level 3.
Yeah, it
summon
could be
a horse.
something to do with horses.
Yeah,
Level 3 summon a horse. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard to sometimes like guess where the stuff is going. Like for Tenoris, right? Like their identity is kind of just like, I guess, big swings. We can say that. Like
pretty much.
I mean, like Guardian's like what? Like slam, like heavy swing, savage, whatever the other one was. Oh, savage smash.
Big
they have like
damage.
all sorts of like stuff like that. And then Diana's got not bows but guns. And then Arasana exists allegedly.
Exists.
In Buried Grief.
One day she'll be good.
He has Buried Grief.
Yeah. Arasana plays on the definition of Buried Grief. They're trying. They're trying to make it work.
Was there a lot of hype? Because obviously, you were there when the keynote was like obviously coming out. Was there a lot of hype and a lot of noise and stuff when things were revealed at Chicago?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I think that's one of the things about the GA community, right? It's like they love seeing spoilers. And the slow trickle to like every single release season, I'd say like, Weebs is figuring out like, okay, this is the tempo at which we need to push out spoilers to appease the masses before they start a riot that they like, it's a week before the release and they still don't know the entire set or something.
Pretty much. getting into your actual run at Chicago, so you ended up running Tristan as your deck, and you did run Tristan at Taipei as well. Was there any changes from deck Taipei to deck Chicago? Was there any different matchups? Like, what's your general kind of rundown of the event itself and your deck?
Um, for at least like the main, I think there was at least a 4 card change if I remember correctly. It was like so in Taipei I made magistrates, 3 of them, to deal with what I thought was probably going to be meta at the time, which was like it's mainly in there for like Merlin and slimes, right? And then this time it was okay. I think magistrates out, and then 3 slice and dice in, and then I think I cut one or Skeletal Land, and main to Shadow Resonance in order to like make space in the sideboard. And then there's like some sideboard changes. I'm not running like the Umbra sites anymore, and brought in like some more options. Can't really remember in particular, but it's probably just like numbers changes because like a lot of the cards are super similar, right? Like I have all 4 copies of Incap now, 4 Zephyrs in addition to 3 Ensnaring Fumes. Like the 3 reprograms are still there.
Yeah.
And then I think in the material deck, not a whole lot changed. Mainboard Lantern.
Was Tristan like a meta call for the scene you were expecting, or was there any other decks you were thinking of running instead? Or
Yeah, I mean, you know, I always travel with like a million decks to an event because I'll pick my deck at like 7 o'clock in the morning.
it's true.
So I brought this time I brought Nico, Slimes, Tristan, and Merlin. And then I think I coin flipped late the night before, and then settled on Tristan. And I think in terms of the meta, like going into Chicago, like I was expecting a lot of Slimes and a lot of Wind Allies. I think like historically North America has always been like very into like the allies meta, and I thought like I think this is probably the first meta we've seen where allies is like not solidly like tier 1. Like I think if you take allies into any of the tier 1 decks, everyone will just like you are assumed to be a little bit unfavored, unless you high roll. But North America likes allies. They love allies.
Yeah.
And beyond that, like Slimes has had like really strong showing recently. There's been a little bit more time for people to like optimize and develop the deck, and like it seems to be a deck that like I felt like, so that's what I was expecting.
Your
Oh,
video
God.
just went off. If you want to try and turn it back on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's hit the note switch. What?
Nope. There we go.
Nice.
Welcome back.
All right, I'm back.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, I was expecting, I guess like a bunch of slime wind allies. Was not totally disappointed considering I
So
played
yeah,
like
what were your matchups? Like, did you end up versing what you kind of expected, or was there any surprise things? Oh, he's got
oh
he's getting
God.
something out.
Let me show you this unholy matchup chart because I have it on my phone.
You made a whole chart for it. Damn.
Yeah, round 1, I played against Nico. Fair enough. I mean, most events like rounds, like the early 3 or so rounds is when you play against like anything goes, honestly. Although Nico is like pretty meta right now. Round 2, Slimes. Round 3, Nico. Round 4, Allies. Round 5 Slimes, round 6 Slimes, round 7 Merlin. Round 8 Slimes, round 9 Slimes, round 10 Slimes, round 11 Slimes, round 12 Slimes, round 13 Slimes, top 8 Slimes, top 4 Slimes, and then erupting in the finals.
That's
If I had
actually
$1 for every
actually
time I said
insane.
Slimes.
Yeah.
That
That's insane.
it reminds me of like when I was in Singapore, and it's like I could have hit the allies matchup, but I was like round 4 mil and round 5 mil and round 6 mil, and so it's like you obviously wanted to see slimes with your deck, and you showed that because I think you went nearly undefeated. You lost the last round to Pickle Sword, correct? That was the only round you
Yeah,
dropped for the
so
day. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, that was round 9, I think. It was the last round of day 1.
Yeah.
Was a loss to Pickle Sword and my only loss to Slimes that event.
Yeah, yeah. And then from there you were set. Do you feel like you prepared any differently from Chicago compared to Taipei, or was it all the same?
Yeah, I mean, I think like my preparation was probably around the same, although like a little bit more like experience with the deck as well. I think to a large extent also, I'm just gonna call it like the chess club list. Like greater than half of my slime games were against like that particular list.
Yep. So you've
So it was
learned of
also
it.
like, by like the third time playing it, right? It's like I've kind of more or less like gotten a handle on like what is in that list in particular versus like I guess other slime lists. Um and like, how they like to play that list and like what kind of lines they go for.
For people who potentially new to Grand Archive and do want to become competitive, what do you do in preparation for a big event?
Oh God, you're not gonna like the answer to this one. Um
Or what generally
I
would you do to prepare for a big event? Not you directly, but what would someone prepare to do if they're going to compete in a big event?
I think in general, like for deciding on a deck, I think you need to be a meta slave in some extent. Like it's a combination, a balance of choosing a deck that's strong in the meta and also choosing a deck that you're comfortable with. Like obviously, if you have played nothing but Wind Allies, right? Despite it being like what I would consider maybe like not like the absolute top tier of pick, right? Versus you are going to just go in there and first time Tristan. I would rather you just play Wind Allies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you definitely need to balance around like either your perceived strength or like the community perceived strength of deck, and also like how comfortable you are with that deck. Don't play something that's like meta but you aren't comfortable with. But at the same time, like if you can learn what's meta, unless you have like a very strong inclination, hey, my deck beats this, right? This is actually like a strong meta call into like what other people think is good, or they haven't discovered like my deck, which is good. Then you should probably attempt to learn from like what other people think is good.
Yeah.
And if you can beat it, that's great. Like you've found yourself a strong option, and you should like try that.
Yeah.
Other than that, like attempt to understand the meta. And then I think there's also in Grand Archive at least there's enough space for you to try to build toward what meta you think that event is going to be. So like I said, like part of my I guess like my choices for what I'm like mainboarding and sideboarding for Chicago was like this is America, like the home of allies like decks. Like I can't disrespect this, like despite my inclination that like I feel like everybody's gonna be on like Slimes and like Tristan and like Nico and like Merlin, and it's like nope, I am just going to run into like some allies deck, and if my deck can't deal with it, I'm gonna get O2'd in like 15 minutes and get completely run
Yeah.
over. So like I have to like be mainboarding these options. Like reprogram stays on the side, obviously.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I think that I think I said this the other stream as well, is that a lot of people after you won started to try and buy Tristan stuff and said I must pick up Tristan, and I'm like, Sean playing Tristan and a new player playing Tristan is very different. Not to glaze or anything like that. There's a few people in GA that can pick up multiple plethora of decks and can play them to a professional standard. Most players can't do that. And for people who haven't known Sean before this, Sean has topped with Luxem Xander, topped with Rye, topped with Aggro Xander, and now topped with Tristan. So you've got to understand that if Sean wins with a deck, it might not be because the deck is easy to run and strong. It could just be Sean doing Sean things after he's done well with every. Because that's every archetype pretty much. That's a control archetype. That's a combo archetype. That's an aggro archetype, and that's now a whatever you call Tristan, a Shadow Strike archetype. So it's something that
Honestly,
people.
Tristan plays pretty mid rangey, I'd say. Like if you're playing a list with like the main slice and dices, like you have a lot of like strong answers. You have like good aggro options. Like if you saw my finals against like Matt, right? I put 2 black market brokers on the board and hit him for 4 every turn until like
That was
he had to do
ridiculous.
something.
That was ridiculous. That was
So
15 minutes. I think that was over in a best of 3. That was crazy. I think it was I wish it went longer just for like the climax and the viewership, right? But it was like, oh, it's over. Okay, never mind. And then we had to wait like an hour for the keynote because the 2 Sylvie players were playing for third for an hour.
Yeah.
I think they started their game like a half hour before us, and then we started our game. We finished our game, and then we proceeded to watch them play for an hour.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a ridiculously fast grand finals to watch. Because I just remember, I remember I turned it on. I literally turned around to go get food, came back, and it was almost done. Like game 1 was over, and I was like, I missed it. What happened?
Last question in regards to Chicago from me. Is there anything looking back on Chicago that you would have changed or done differently with your deck or preparation?
Deck or preparation, so like not gameplay. Yeah, I think a couple options were a little bit All right, let me pull out my list. What did I play? One sec. I have Shout here. Okay. I am pretty happy with like my material deck choices. Like the Nullifying Lantern was, obviously key in like the Nico matchup, and also like late game slimes. I guess if you're scared of like Slime King, you just slam that, and then it buys you a turn. Safeguard Amulet did not come up very much, but like I could see situations where like if I were paired against something different, I would want it. Fairly happy with the main board. The sideboard, the Imperial Spies were like last minute theory. I tried them like twice, and then in the end, I discovered that like as long as I have Sadie, I just didn't need them. And like with 4 copies of Sadie, it's like you really need like the fifth and sixth ones. Although I also think that like they don't buy you enough value even when you do resolve them fully. So those are like 2 free slots, and everything else I'm like more or less pretty happy with. I also didn't have to play the mirror at all at Chicago, so it's also like very up in the air about like how this variant of the deck does against the mirror.
Yeah, there was a lot of there was a few Tristans. I think that one or two others made top cut, but there was a lot of Tristans that didn't
Mhm.
make it. I wonder whether I haven't spoken to them. I wonder whether they couldn't deal with the slimes or if they ran into mirrors. There was a lot of draws, and Tristan is susceptible to a lot of draws. If you get stuck in a situation where you can't close a game out, Tristan can easily draw out their games. So it's kind of something that you have to be aware of when you're playing Tristan, is that if you don't run the slice and dice like you are currently, you can get stuck in a game too long. 100%.
I think it's also like when you're at the top of the bracket, it's easier to stay there because you play a lot of the same people repeatedly. Like I played against, or not played because I also took some intentional draws. But I got paired into slimes a lot. But it's also like there were multiple people that I got paired into repeatedly. Like for example, between day 1 and day 2, I got paired into Noel twice. I got paired into Pickle Sword twice. I got paired against Steven TTA twice. So out of my 3 opponents on day 4, despite me taking a draw with Pickle, like 3 of them were repeats.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. At that point, you would definitely know the chess clubs list because you versed them 4 times. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like played them 4 times, like got like
you ran
I
into
guess an
Rex.
idea of
You ran
like
into
how they think.
yeah. So you ran into Rex, and you know his list back to front at that point. It's funny.
It's a bit unfortunate for him to parent to me after I've already played 4 of his teammates.
Yeah.
Nice, cool. Any other questions we got? What we got?
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking now that slimes they got that stone scale ban eroded, and I would call it a nerf, but I guess some people might disagree. How
It's
do you think the
definitely a
meta?
nerf.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I heard something before this that was quite interesting,
We
but
made the card cost more, the
yeah.
ability cost more, and the ability only works once instead of for the rest of
Yeah.
the turn.
So,
This
so
is not a
Yeah.
nerf, this is
Nerfed
a
on 3
change. Like,
accounts.
no,
Yeah.
this is a nerf.
someone told me
Yeah.
today that it's a buff, Sean. They said it's a buff
Yeah.
because they can banish a slime when they play it. They can banish one as a cost.
Okay, so in return, I'm going to propose that we buff the Sylvie deck by making Sylvie 1 cost 2, Sylvie 2 cost 3, and Sylvie 3
True.
cost
You
4,
know what?
and you
That's
can't
true.
dungeon guide it.
Yep. Yeah. Nah, it's a change, bro. It's not enough. Yeah.
You should work at Riot Games.
Yeah. So true. No, Riot changes the game every 2 seconds and wonders why it's still not good. Subjective, of course, but yeah. Well, now that they've changed Stone Scale Band, how do you think the meta is going to look for the next tournament? What do you think you'll have to? What do you expect that you'll see now that Slimes probably won't be played as much?
Like the next tournament, as in like Singapore.
Yeah, I guess we can say Singapore.
I mean, I think even without the change, like I expect the Singaporean meta to be like quite different. Like it's just like between North America and like Singapore, like the regional metas are just different. Like players have a pretty big gap in like what they think is good. Like from what I saw, like from like past tournament results, right? Like everyone in Southeast Asia is like very high on Nico. And like very few, if any, slimes are like kind of making it there, or at least it's not like the proportion to which like they were in Chicago, right? like slimes were, I mean, if we look at the stats, it's something like 20% like overall representation, right? Like 6 out of 8 in top 8. And granted, like the players who were on slimes, right, had clearly practiced their decks, right? They're strong players in, their own respects. But like 6 out of 8 is 6 out of 8, right? Like
Yeah.
that is a lot of slimes.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think like in an equivalent tournament, for example, even in Singapore, we would see like 6 out of 8 Nico, for example. Um, so that is just like the raw number of people running like a certain deck. So I think like, yeah, that'll definitely be different. I think I'm not sure like what it changes for slimes because I've only been on like the Tristan end of the matchup. I haven't really played like slimes into Tristan, or at least the few times I had, I didn't like it, so I went back into Tristan.
Yeah.
But I think yeah, it should slow them down, I guess. But I don't know like exactly what space and what decks will be able to like take advantage of that change in the meta.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. Like if we're talking from a meta perspective, that Southeast Asia's meta is very different to North America's, the same as it's very different to Oceania. Oceania has a heavier ally presence than both of the other regions. Where you see from North America, there is a mixture, currently slimes, a lot of slimes. And then Singapore, I'm expecting to see a lot of Nikos, still expecting to see a lot of Merlins. I'm still expecting to see a fair few allies as well, like water allies from the front. But I don't think you're going to see as many slimes as what you did in America. But I also think, and I've said this I think in the chats and stuff before, that Sylvie's an anomaly just because it's easy to pick up. It's all in one box pretty much. Not much additions need to be had, and it's easy to play. So even if I say that the Singapore meta is not going to have many slimes, you could still have 30 to 40 new players that have just picked up the deck and played it as well. So
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think like it's also like a very like exciting deck to play as a new player, I think, right?
yeah,
Because like the combos are like fairly straightforward, but they also like feel pretty good, you know? Like sometimes you can have a straightforward combo that really doesn't like get you too far. And then like, it's just kind of like, okay, that's cool. But like with Sylvie, you have Dungeon Guide into Ethereal Slime for free into Storm Slime pointed at your face, right? And then swing 3, swing 5, swing 1. And like that feels great. Like
yeah,
this is a good time when you're doing that kind of combo. So
true.
it's also like, the top end feels very exciting to play, which is always a benefit for a deck.
It reminds me of that meme. It's like used in League all the time, where you got the guy, he's like sweating massively. It's like the Tristan player, and then you got the guy like dancing like this. It's like the Sylvie player, like enjoying themselves. That's definitely how it feels. Because Tristan, you've got to jump through all these hoops, and Sylvie, you're like, hee hee, I'll play my guys. Oh, it's a storm slime on the top. I'll play it. Oh, it's another storm slime on the top. I'll play it. Cool, thanks. See ya.
Yeah.
Good game.
Yeah, I think it's a very exciting deck to play. And on top of that, like the artwork is just cute. Like you can never. I don't think there's anyone that can dislike slimes just for the way they're literally just blobs that like have cute faces. And of course,
I'm
Sylvie
not gonna
is.
lie to you, I can't tell you a single thing about their artwork.
Yeah, you're not that. You never look at the artwork of the cards. You see a card, and you're like, oh, what is this text at the bottom? Yeah, that's
Rai is my favorite champion lineage. I have leveled into Rai probably like 1,000 times. I got quizzed on his artwork and I almost got the answer wrong.
yeah. Dude,
Oh
that's
no.
spoken like a true Yu-Gi-Oh player. You just start looking at the text as soon as you see the card. You don't even look at the card.
Bro, I don't. If anybody has ever watched me on feature match on streams, I very clearly do not look at my opponent's card text.
You just know what they do naturally.
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
You
So
don't
when
even
they
know.
when they play something, I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'll allow it.
Yeah, you just hit them with a thumbs up and just like keep going. You're good.
Like,
Yeah,
alright.
Draw 7
that's fair.
cards?
That's fair.
Sure, yeah, you can draw 7 cards. That's fine. It's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
good. Don't worry about it.
yeah. And I
Nice.
guess yeah. I imagine there's not too many cards you're unfamiliar with by this point.
Yeah, it's mostly like working familiarity, I guess, where it's like I know enough about the card, to like kind of play around it. But if there's like some nuance with a card that's like very specific, I probably like won't pick it up. Like for example, I didn't know that Slime Shield, the discount was a level 2 plus bonus. I thought it was just
Yeah.
class bonus.
Mhm.
And then I got hit with that one for free. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I do feel
I
like
still
that
remember seeing that.
in regards to like I guess jumping back to players getting involved into GA, the competitive side of it as well, like that is the most important thing to learn is actually the knowledge about the other decks. Like us three probably can, we can, if we say a deck, we can think of what it does, what its main cards are, what etc. Where a new player that doesn't know that are the ones that get like gotcha'd all the time, right? So like, although you don't know the nuances, Sean, when you're versing X deck, they will have this, this, and this. You know what the cards do. You know what I mean? Compared to a newer player. So like that's I think the biggest thing for players is to actually understand what all decks do, not just what their deck does as well, which is really good.
Yeah, which is, I guess, like the level that I was referring to was like working familiarity, right? Where it's
Mm,
like I'm familiar enough to the point where I can like play against it effectively. I'm not like caught off guard by the fact that wait, stifling trap exists,
yeah,
right?
right.
I just got my dungeon guide negated. Like
From
what?
memory, what the hell?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So like it's like that, but if you like if there's specific like restriction text or like what exactly like is like the first effect of this versus like the second line, who knows?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
fair enough.
And
All right, last question. Yep.
yeah. So just leading into that, like, is there a way that you would recommend to newer players to kind of get familiar with other decks because they might not have the time or to kind of like play every single deck in the game? Is there a way that you would recommend to them to learn other decks quickly?
Uh, a
Play
cheat
play
sheet.
games.
Yeah,
Yeah,
close
it
that.
could be that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the most effective is probably like to play against it if you can't like play with it. There's like a certain level of like familiarity increase that you can get just from like playing against it, right? Like for example, when I was at Chicago, like I said, by the time I was playing Rex in top eight, I had played against his like exact list like 4 times. So after 4 times, I kind of know like what they're going for, and also like because they practice together, I assume that they've kind of like agreed upon like what is the most value like line that you can like do here in this situation. Like when you level up, like you have one forest cake, do you play like a bear, for example, or do you play like baby red, and like that um, sort of like step by step like value evaluation of like how much should I prioritize all of these plays. So playing against it helps, but playing against it might only, I guess, affect you learning like how the deck works against your deck in particular. I guess if you can find like videos of other people playing it, preferably with commentary, if you like watch it at like 2x speed, then it's like not the worst in the world. Watching it at 1x is like, I mean, you're a lot of times they're going to be like thinking, right? So you kind of just want to like speed through that, and like the commentary helps with casters like fill the dead air time with like speculation about like what lines are, especially if like the casters are good. They'll generally try to like explain, like what each deck is like trying to do, like what's the goal here, what are some key cards, and then also like how the decks might interact with each other in the matchup.
So, like in regards to Ascents themselves, I download every Ascent on my phone on YouTube. Like I've got YouTube Premium, so I download the full 13 hours or whatever. And then on my flight
Oh God.
let's like
Mhm.
Singapore's an 8-hour flight, I'll watch Chicago for most of that flight. So not only is like, even though I understand, I guess, like the decks and stuff, it's good to kind of just get your head in that space in general by watching other people play. It's like it helps a lot to kind of percolate, you'd say, or cook in the brain. So like that's another thing is like, as you just said, then watching other people play, even with the commentary, like commentators like Once in Love and Cam and stuff are really good at expressing what is happening, which can help a lot for the newer players too. Don't be that newer player that makes the tier S deck and then doesn't verse anyone and then takes it to a store champs and then goes X3 and then goes I quit and sells their cards. Don't do that. Like actually invest some time in having a look at what other people are doing and learn that way. 100%.
I mean, to some degree, also like when you're a new player, there is even though people might like have opinions about it, there is like a certain benefit to playing decks that don't like interact as much. Um, like for example, I mean, I guess like in DOA, right, when it feels like Rye is like trying to kill you, right? It's like there's not a whole lot you can do about it beyond like I guess if you're Lorraine, like Veiling Breeze, right? Um, but like that helps you focus on just like I guess one thing at a time. So like okay, I've learned like how to like combo my kill here, versus like I guess a deck that like interacts more as they level up. So I don't know, maybe Tristan.
Windcrux,
But it's just like when
Windcrux Lorraine
you're
as well.
yeah, that too. Like what is the correct turn to go for your well, like, you know, when you're on Lorraine 1, right? It's like, do I take a turn off for like Drawn Blade? Also, like back when Dungeon Guide like restood your champion and
Oh
everyone
yeah.
was on the
Oh
infusion build,
my.
right? Like,
Yeah.
what is the correct turn for me to be going to 2, right? And then actually like
Eating a
initiating
3.
this combo so it doesn't like blow up in my face, right? And stuff like that. And those are like, I guess, extra considerations that might make learning a deck like a little bit more difficult rather than like a deck that, you know, is not like too concerned with what the opponent is doing, more or less.
Yeah, I do normally try and cater new players towards Wind Allies because although Wind Allies can have a high skill roof, it's very easy to start with Wind Allies, you slap your allies down, and you try to kill them, right? The other one is in DOA, especially. DOA had a lot of players that would just play Erupting because Erupting, you could literally sit on your kitchen bench by yourself and you could play Erupting. You don't need to worry about anything. Nullifying wasn't out in First Ed, there was no Nullifying yet. So people would just play Erupting. Like our friend Costa's quit for a long time now, but he won he was like one of the only people to win with a non-advanced element on TTS tournaments, and he used to just sit at home and play Erupting by himself for 4 hours a day, just literally just playing solitaire. So, and like
Yeah.
to be honest, Erupting hasn't changed now, but there's just more interaction with what you have to deal with in regards to what people can do to it now as well. So
Oh yeah, there's definitely interaction against Erupting.
yeah,
Get Veiling Breeze twice.
yeah,
Yeah.
get double
Was it
incapped, double
in
incapped.
cap twice against his double resolute or something? That was good.
I will say though, I was quite impressed with the list that was made, that erupting list. I did like the under fire, I liked the safeguard, and I did not expect the fireball Tristan fireball. That was really cool, like innovation. So I do appreciate and shout out innovation. But yeah, what can you do when you get incapped? And like that, at the end of the day, that combo needs to be uninteracted. If that you interact with the erupting, they're pretty much ruined. So
Yeah, so for Under Fire, well, like I said, one of the decks that I was, oh god, Yap is gonna message me about this. Anyway, one of the decks that I was, you already know where this is going. One of the decks that, you know, was under consideration for like, okay, what should I play, right, was Merlin. And then I was like, I brought like a pretty good Fire Merlin list, and I was like, okay, I think my like edge against the Tristan matchup is I'm just going to play Gloomspire and draw a card every turn, and they are going to not draw a card every turn. So in 4 turns, I will have drawn 4 cards, and they will have drawn no cards. That sounds pretty good.
yes,
But like now with Under Fire, that actually gives like another like edge, and that is like one card I didn't find. And unluckily for Matt, finals are open deck list. But in addition, he was not the first person to, I guess, like, well, it was in his list. He didn't actually get me with it, but he was not the first person to get me with Under Fire.
oh
The
really?
Fire Merlin player I played, yeah, on day one, I think it was Mark from Lineage Raid.
Mhm.
Like he got me with it. Unluckily for him, I top decked another Shadow Strike the next turn. I killed him with it, but he did get me with the Under Fire, and I was like, this is some really interesting tech. I wish I had found it. And I might have played Merlin if I had known that it
Yeah.
existed.
Yeah, it's very. I think it's very cool as well. Especially if you, let's say you lose game one, a game two Merlin with 4 under fire, 4 Blanche in their deck sounds terrifying. Honestly, like if you're able to have that answer to like to gain stealth, gain 4 damage. If you under fire Blanche, or if you already have a Blanche on the field as well, it's doing 0 and giving you stealth as well. There's a lot of interaction that I'm actually excited post Chicago to build. Like I've been building decks every day because I've got my brain's cooking with all this new tech that has come from Chicago. But at the end of the day, it's like you build a deck and go, okay, am I going to get slimed? Probably. So let's figure out how we don't get slimed, right? Which is great.
Yeah, slimes are, they're like standard level up to 3 play is like, I mean, it's quite terrifying. Like ethereal into storm slime, not a good time.
Current situation, I believe, is if your deck can't beat slimes, like your first test for your deck to see if it's worthy is if it can beat slimes. If you verse slimes and you get 3-0'd by it, then move on to your next deck. Like I think that
Nah,
it
it's not
needs to
even.
not even 1-0.
Nah, it's. I feel like it's still, if you can't beat Merlin. I feel like Merlin is still the test.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah,
Nice.
I think it's still Merlin. I don't think Slimes is there yet.
Slime's not there yet. That's fair enough. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sean. Thank you again, Justin, for being on another video. Hopefully we will see you in Singapore, and maybe we'll have another interview after you win with your slimes over there. Who knows? So
You think I'm playing Slimes for Singapore? There's no
Nope.
shot.
Yeah.
You're playing horses.
I know you have to
before
talk
horses
me out
come
of
out.
slimes for Taipei. There's no way I'm playing slimes in Singapore.
You should play horses before horses come out. Just play Trusty
Yeah, I'm
Steed
gonna
in your
put
next
4
deck.
trusty
Yeah.
steed in my deck.
Before we
and-
go, one thing. Sean did win a store champs with 1 refurbish in his deck. I'm setting a public goal that you need to win a store champs and above with a horse in your deck before A and B. That is
It's
the
the
goal I'm
same
setting
card. Like I could have just replaced
you. You have to
refurbish
play
with
it. No,
trusty
you have to
steed.
play it. You have to play it on
The
the board.
outcome would have been
Yeah.
the same.
You have to play it on the board.
I have to play it on the board
Once.
like in every
That's a
game.
lot
What if I
harder.
don't
Once.
see
Just
it?
once. Just once. You have to win a game with one by playing on the board. That's it.
What if I don't see it?
Then you get disqualified.
What the?
So you have to run 2 now.
You
Or
have to
4.
run 4.
You might, yeah, run 4 of
I
them.
have to run
Good
more
luck.
horses so I
Yeah.
see it. Yeah,
You have
I'll
to
run
see it.
3 in the sideboard. So if it's the last round and like the
Yes.
last game, and I'm about to win, I
Oh
need to
my
side in
God.
all my horses so I finish this stupid challenge.
Can you imagine the commentators' faces when you drop Trusty Steed like turn 2? They'll be like, "Oh my God, it's a Trusty Steed! He's been there since day 1."
It's over.
Good luck.
Uh,
That's all I can say. Good luck.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and see you guys next video. Ciao, ciao.
Yep.
Yep.
See you guys.